Hello, party people. Welcome back to another wonderful part of Let's Play in History. This time we're going to do the sequel of Honor Among Thieves Sly 3. And we're also going to talk about the election of 1908 and subsequent presidential elections, and then other historical figures and other important things within the history of this country. Maybe even talk about some political parties, because I'm trying to release some videos on political parties and their history and how important they are in the historical grand scheme of things. We're gonna start a new game. Kind of forgot you could play two-player.
The gang's assembled and are in position to help you get up to that vault. For the rest of the operation, you are the ball.
Roger that. I'm starting my approach. Getting over these fortress walls shouldn't be a problem. Look, we're running 5 by 5 here.
I'm gonna focus on this game, and then we'll talk about election stuff and historical stuff in a little bit.
Radio control, in position.
This game's just fun. It's wonderful. I've probably beaten this game at least like 30 or 40 times, honestly. There's a lot of people in this game, and this is like Ocean's 11 before Ocean's 11. Wait. Actually, I think Ocean's 11 already came out. Maybe it was inspired by this. Where am I going? Nope, wrong way.
Agent Hartcroft, take up position for a Yank 86. Oh, I've got a visual. The ball has stopped rolling. We've got an obstruction. I'm on it. First is away. Second guy is full.
Oh, Penelope. How she turns on us.
Agent Old Rock, prep for Tipper. Let her rip, Old Rock. Ball's in position. Nice work. The ball's got a track.
And here we are, doing a heist of a lifetime. Nope. Okay.
Ball requesting door via Agent Monarch. Over.
I think the second one, the first and second ones have some of my most favorite stories, but this third one is like I think it kind of reminds me of like, I think a good comparison in my view is of this video game franchise is kind of like Chris Nolan's Batman series, where it's like Batman Begins, it's awesome, it's a wonderful game, etc., etc. And the second one's just like takes it to a whole nother level, which just leads to complete and utter dominance. That's like the Dark Knight.
How's your wife doing, Richards?
Oh, very well, Dr. M. Thank you for asking. Very thoughtful.
Man, your son
And then this one is great.
Mike.
Mark.
Not like, oh my god, great in terms of its overall story, but I think it does deliver a lot of the goods, and in particular all the things that you hope and want a sequel to be. It ultimately does achieve a lot of that, because this game's not perfect. I think the second one is just a different cohesive experience that really was a game changer. Then this one just continues that, and in particular this one I think just is like a real full story.
Yes. Water leaking into the lab. I'm on my way down. Oh, and is it janitor lab manager? Richards got smart.
Ooh, devious.
Vault is just across these wires. I'm en route to your position for the loot haul. Over. Power down the turret with that security code.
Devious, this game.
Hoopa! You must be Sly, the new keeper of the cane. Oh, how I love this.
This vault belongs to the Cooper family. You're trespassing.
No, my naive.
We stole all this money first.
I know the key to this island. This fortress is mine. Everything here is mine. Which now includes the key to the vault and the key.
Sorry, pal. Family heirloom. Buy a knockoff at a gift shop.
Yeah, bro, it's a family heirloom. Can't keep taking it like that.
Regroup with the others. Follow me. This is bad.
Weak Sly. I
Jump for it. Let's go. This place is flooding. We don't have much time.
You think Sly would have learned how to swim at this point?
We're almost home free. The boat's just up ahead.
There's no escape, Cooper. Pathetic.
Fly! Getting
Good lord.
Weak Sly.
it's not working. Save yourself.
If he wants to eat this.
Uh-oh. No, Sly.
Hold on, Sly. Hold on.
It was like they always say. Your life really does flash before your eyes. There it all was.
Probably wondering how I got myself into this.
Born into a family of master thieves that went back for generations, I was next in line to continue the Cooper name. But fate had different plans. I was robbed of my childhood when a ruthless gang attacked our home.
Poor Sly.
The village I landed in wasn't all bad. It was there that I met my lifelong friends. Bentley, he's always been the thinker. And Murray, he's the doer. We'd stuck together for
Cookie.
years. Our skill, confidence, and our thieving reputation grew stronger with each heist.
Oh, this game's so fun.
Times would never end, but our luck would never run out.
Anyways, you want to hear about the election of 1908. A very fascinating election. I believe this is the last election William Jennings Bryan will be running. He is running for the Democratic ticket with John Kern as his vice presidential nominee. The Republican nominee is William Howard Taft with James Sherman as his vice presidential candidate. Long story short, Taft will win this election with 320 electoral votes versus 162 for William Jennings Bryan. with a popular vote of like 7.5 versus 6.5. And third-party tickets are starting to become really prominent because of a lot of dissatisfaction with both parties. I'll be fair. But they still had enough support overall to where they would control things. Voter turnout was really low in this election, despite a lot of the problems that were happening. And some background information, Teddy decides not to run again, pretty much somewhat forces Taft to kind of run for the presidency, even though he wanted to run as a Supreme Court justice and get, which he will actually post-term as president, interestingly enough.
Finding and bringing together that much talent won't be easy. But to get inside the Cooper vault and collect my inheritance, I was willing to pay the price.
At this point, things are going pretty well. There's some economic issues going on with the country. The scare / panic of do I have to do this?
We'll need to perfect our thieving skills. I've rigged this place to push us to our limits.
I'm guessing these levers start with different trainers.
That's right. Each will initiate.
So I have to do this first, I'm guessing, before we actually do all the missions,
Then we'll get things started.
Dish it out. I'm ready.
which I guess is a way to start.
Okay. All great thieves have one thing in common.
A ton of cash?
No, they never get lost. Use the right
Anyways, it's the economic stuff that's happening. Jennings Bryan, a lot of the Midwest kind of turn on the Republicans to a certain degree, but not enough to make a significant difference.
Great. Now press down on the L3 button to paying away point.
That's handy.
I agree. These holographic markers are an invaluable tool for finding your way around in the field. Notice how the logo moves to the destination?
And despite dissatisfaction with the Republican Party, Democrats unfortunately just don't have the support. It's just not a lot of. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of these parties tend to go to, or a lot of these votes tend to go to third parties at this time, because they're just trying to find an alternative. And the Democratic Party just, whatever it's worth, they just refuse to die and go away, you know? And a lot of it has to do with the dominant South, which is still very, very, very strong at this particular point in time. The Prohibition era is really starting.
All right, Bentley.
Socialist Party is starting. Prohibitionists, socialists, etc., etc. A lot of these parties would take like 2% of the vote, which normally probably would go to Bryan and would make things a little more complicated and difficult for the Republicans and Taft. But they just have too much support overall, at least in comparison to the Democrats and third-party candidates. So much so that Taft actually gets a high percentage of the vote, the highest, the majority. And you know, people do need to understand that when things are good, you know, they want the good times to keep going, and when things are bad, they want change. And I think that's something that people need to understand today, and understand historically how things ultimately go. Cool. Is this how to sneaky sneak?
You picked up a lot of skills after reading the previous Raccoon.
Heck of a page turner, that book.
Let's see if you remember them all. Check out those small points on that wire. You can land on them light as a feather using your ninja spire jump.
Easy. I just jump and hit the circle button.
Exactly. Getting over to the other
It's like
side.
fourth wall breaking almost. Whoops. Now, the biggest problem for Republicans, though, was the fact that despite having popularity and things going relatively good, Taft is not Teddy. So they really had to prop him up. They really had to push forth the idea that he's like the guy, you know, the successor, all his successes.
Let's head outside and get this operation underway.
Oh yeah, this is probably one of my favorite episodes.
Hidden inside a
We have to go find Murray.
team of world-class thieves, a group of specialists, each member contributing their own particular talent. It was clear that we needed Murray,
And again, Republicans are just overwhelmingly popular.
lifelong friend, but his brute strength helped get us out of more than a few scrapes in the past.
Ugh.
When Bentley was injured during the whole
Poor Murray, he's so broken
Murray blamed himself,
emotionally.
eventually leaving the team. We tried to console him, but going out on his own was something he needed to do. He said he wanted to find his spiritual center. We got word that Murray ended up in the Australian
He finds his peace.
studying a mystic art called the Dream Time.
But in terms of the specific states, Brian does take a couple of the Midwestern states, which Republic or Democrats were hoping that he would be able to take. But California at this point is growing in size. They end up not stealing, but they end up winning like double the vote again. And despite the support in certain states like Colorado, which are highly contested elections, the North is just kind of lost to them, to Democrats for the most part at this point in time. Although certain, I guess you could say, swing states and battleground states are a lot more competitive, like Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, Indiana. All those states are pretty heavily fought for, within like 50,000 votes for the more populous states, or like 20,000 for like Indiana, for instance. Kentucky goes back to being a Democratic state. Excuse me. But like I said before, they need to win. If the Democrats are going to win, they would need to take some important states like New York, Pennsylvania, and they just don't have the support of either of those states. So they have to win every other state that they humanly can, and it's just not enough. They lose Oregon, most of the Northeast, basically. The Dakotas they lose Utah, Washington. Like, they need every single state that they can, and it's just not enough. They just don't have enough support overall, which leads to kind of Taft win, And it was absolutely a winnable election. Taft maybe would have been up only by like 2 or 3 percentage points, or by 3 points in the polls if it was conducted. So it wasn't a lot, and I don't think Brian, despite, I'll put it this way, him being a silverist individual, silver monetary value and backed individual, is not helping things either, unfortunately, for Democrats, when it's been gold standard, and at least economically speaking, they're pretty strong. And despite William Jennings Bryan and the Democratic Party slowly going towards that more, I don't want to say populist, but certainly much more liberal ideal, and more working class, because they're starting to there will be eventually for unions and whatnot soon after. This is kind of the start of it. It's just not enough support. It's just not enough, and they're not able to get the votes that they need. And I like William Jennings Bryan. I think he's a bit of a radical in a lot of ways, and a very highly intellectual man, although a complicated man, certainly so. He just does not have the support that he has and that he needs, and he's just not strong enough in order to actually get it.
Blueprints to the vent system in front of me. I should be able to guide you to the jail cell.
Hey, Murray, is that you?
Plot twist.
Has he dice to come round here?
Dimitri, long time no punch. See, you're still in jail.
Who's there a cracker box?
Let's get past the name calling and get to business.
Looking for main man Murray, eh? Sorry, but I'd rather see you get busted big time. Yeah! Bolivia!
Wait,
Oh yeah.
where's that generous nature you're so famous for? I always pictured you as the bigger man in these types of situations.
I'm a big man. Big with the payback and the sex appeal. Got that ant? I control the beat of this track. Yours is the dancer.
If those cops get their mitts on me, who's gonna break you out of jail?
Might get this cell now open. The cops would throw down and bust me on the way out. And then I'll get the double sentence. Sweet.
How about I get the cops' attention and then run for it? Once they're all outside shooting at me, you can slip out no problem.
No. That's a plan I can get behind. Dimitri is free. Cooper is cooked. He for sale is head company's office.
Okay, good. This other locker won't be a problem.
Ooh, is Carmelita here?
Crack it by hand.
Get me out of here, and I'll find Murray. No sweat. Just keep on the down low. Out of sight near them coppers, bro. We're a bad bunch of buddies.
Oh, Dimitri.
Please, I thank you, but we're now ready for the presentation. As we all know, the Canals of Venice have been mysteriously filling the dark the last month.
Oh, those are not cops. Those are commandos.
Been devastating on the local
Yep,
highway.
Carmelita's here.
Our sources believe that this man, Don Octavio, is potentially responsible for the disaster. Unfortunately, we've got no hard evidence.
Boom. Cell door key.
Nice work. Head back to Dimitri's cell and free him. If he's true to his word, we'll be talking to Murray in no time.
Let's get back to business. Now, where was I? Hold tight, boys. The power's on the fritz again. It'll calm down in a few minutes.
Better make sure you're under a desk when the lights come back on.
Those Gatling guns on their desks? What?
Keep your hands to yourself, Leon.
Tickle your feet, bro. No, that's just too weird.
Can you really crack this coconut?
The election of 1912. The election that,
See some shine, bro. I swear. Spring me, and I'll hook you up with that plump dog Murray. See?
This thing will be tough to
Ah, crap.
I'd lead you up with harder locks. Slowly rotate the left analog stick until you feel a vibration. Stop.
I'll do like I promised and distract the cops so you can make your escape.
the election 1912, though, is a very complicated election that should be noted. Should be noted. Between basically three candidates, you can put Eugene V. Debs as a candidate if you want, as a member of the Socialist Party. But it's basically between William Howard Taft with Nicholas Butler as his running mate, with Woodrow Wilson, the Democratic candidate, with Thomas Marshall as his running mate. Teddy Roosevelt's running with Hiram Johnson as his running mate. This is a complicated election. But some background.
You've got some serious
Um,
up my squad.
Teddy just didn't like what Taft was doing when he came back from his trips. Tries to run for the Republican nomination. Republicans just don't want Teddy. They don't want... It's not that they don't want Teddy. It's just they are very Teddy's a powerhouse and powerful figure, and it's not a good look in a lot of ways, and ultimately kind of self-destructive. And they had largely agreed that despite Taft's problems, he would be the nominee, because of just overall general support. And I'll put it this way: if Teddy doesn't do this, Taft probably wins. Not decisively, mind you, but certainly, at the very least, it doesn't split the vote the way that it happens. Taft probably loses the popular vote, but he still wins probably the majority in a very close and potentially contested election.
Greetings, Inspector Fox! Man, you're in it again!
Hope that manual works both ways.
That's right. I was the sewers like the rat you are.
Oh, Murray and Carmelita.
Thanks for the quick escape. I owe you one.
But, long story short, Woodrow Wilson will win the majority of the electoral votes and popular vote. He gets about 6 million votes, wins about 430 plus electoral votes. Teddy, with his new progressive wink wink Bull Moose Party, wins about 88 electoral votes with about 4 million. So he wins about 25 to 30% of the vote. Taft wins just one state, or no, 2 states. He ends up getting 8 electoral votes and about 25% himself.
Sure he didn't tell you to get lost?
Socialist Party gets like 7%. They don't win anything, but they're growing. And
Sorry.
it's
Tell me everything.
this is where cities really become a problem in for the states, I would say. In terms of contentious elections in various cities. And how do I even put this? This is a complicated election to even try to explain and figure out from a state to state margin. So let me put it this way. First and foremost, because of the infighting, it's bad for headlines for the Republican Party, and it splits the party up and splits the vote up largely. That's the first big thing. People, despite having issues with Taft, still see him as the Republican nominee and the guy. And again, I just think if Teddy doesn't split the vote the way he does, Woodrow Wilson probably still wins a large portion of the vote. But I know a lot of the socialists who would have voted for the Democratic Party still vote socialist. So at the very least, Woodrow probably still wins the popular vote. But Taft probably wins at least 280. I think he carries at least a couple more states. And it isn't as contested as some of the other states would be. Because I'll give you a... Yeah, we're good. I already know how to play. We are way now. Oh. Well, that's cool to know. $50. Oh, come on. Really just want to jump up on things and just get that over with, but nope.
West Opera House is Octavio's base of operation.
Nice place. Sure to be a few coins laying around in there. What's the plan?
If you can get me inside to one of Octavio's computers, I should be able to hack his firewall and get the dirt on his operation.
Okay. Have you got a point of entry? I'm guessing the front door is not the safest option.
That wooden hatch appears to be an ideal way to slip in undetected. Head down there and we'll meet up in a few minutes.
Yes, good job. But the vote splitting also made it even more difficult because there were certain states that Taft technically wins, or Roosevelt technically wins, but they go to Taft. It's a complicated, an entirely complicated measure to even explain that. But I'm telling you, like the third party votes are really, really. Oh yeah, I forgot this game had 3D. They actually did have 3D classes that you could actually play with this game.
To open this door, we'll need to press the 3D security buttons at exactly the same time. Okay? On my three. 1, 2, 3. Let's make another attempt. 1, 2, 3. Get ready. 1, 2, 3. Nice.
Okay, about to say, Murray, you're going, or Bentley, you're going way too fast for me, bro.
Looks like Octavio is fond of this 3D synchronized security system. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
It's on 3.
Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. On 3. 1, 2.
God,
All right.
Bentley's going way too fast. And I'm a terrible gamer, and I'm probably a little dumb.
Correct. My booster won't be enough to make it to that next door. I've made a number of improvements to my wheelchair, but nothing can flow me through this canal.
Don't worry about it, pal. I'm sure I'll find a way across. And there seem to be plenty of boats hanging around to make a nice bridge for you.
Okay, I'll wait for your signal.
Dook 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 doo. Because when I mean this election's contested, just trying to figure out the vote share of everything is kind of difficult. Now, Woodrow Wilson does win a lot of the South, and he does push him forth as this new Southern, I would say Southern liberal, which the party was a little bit hesitant to kind of put him forth. But at least he had ideas, and he had some staying power as an ideological candidate. And that's also a big reason why a lot of the people who would have voted for the socialist candidate ultimately end up voting for Woodrow Wilson. Just pointing that out. No one wants to talk about that, but that's also the truth. Dude, I'm the snoopiest spy of all time.
That door ahead of you is reinforced. We'll need to bob our way.
Right beside you, just stealing from you. You don't even see me, bro.
Thanks for the assist, Sly. Maybe I can return the favor with some well-placed explosives. Okay, stand.
So like I said, he, decisively he wins the... God. He wins the South.
This door is made of 4-inch thick bulletproof plexiglass. My bombs won't make a dent. See if you can find a way around it through that ventilation shaft. This room's empty. Crawl a little farther. They
Wrong
have
one.
to have a lock switch somewhere.
Of course I have to go this way. They don't want to make this game too easy for me. cutting it close, people.
Synchronized watches and 1, 2, 3. We're in.
Haha, there we go. I'll give you a couple of examples that I can think of that are not solid South states that
Yes, a world
things could have been very different had they not split the vote, or the vote shares just all over the place. Like Arizona might only be 3 electoral votes, but like 10,000 people vote for the Democratic candidate, and about 10,000 people vote for both Teddy and Taft, but they split that vote.
operation from this old dinosaur.
Alright, buddy, I got your back.
What? A delay switch? Sorry, Sly. Guess the dinosaur has teeth. I'll hack as fast as I can. Watch my back. There are sure to be guards on the way.
Oh, my bad. Wasn't paying attention, Bentley. That was my bad. Dang it.
Halfway there.
Okay, I hit that guy, but whatever, game.
I've almost got it. So close. Download complete.
Colorado is another great example. Only about 115,000 Democrat votes versus a combined 150,000 between Taft and Teddy. Teddy getting a majority of those votes. God. Let me see. Do you have anything in your back pockets? No, you don't. And a bunch of the Northeast states end up going for Woodrow Wilson, which is the big one. But again, it's primarily, I would say, specifically because they split the vote. Not to say that there wasn't justification for Teddy to do what he did, or to go about it in the way that he did. I'm all for third-party candidates, but it's also like you're going to effectively destroy the Republican Party just because you don't... just freaking kill me already. There we go. Just get it over with, people. God, now I gotta start all the way back here in this game, I swear. These games aren't perfect, people. Ugh. Oh, lordy. We're gonna go this way, people.
Heads up, Sly. I've intercepted.
Delaware's about 22,000 Democrat votes or so, and then 24,000 Taft and Teddy votes, which again splits things again. a lot of those Midwestern states would have gone Republican had they just not done what they did.
Never thought we'd be helping.
Because a lot of them did not go to the socialists. Like, a lot of these states could have been won had they just not split things up.
Law enforcers ain't that
Like, Illinois combined was literally almost 2-1 Republican to Democrat, but they lose that state because they split the dang vote. Indiana, the exact same thing. Almost, not 2-1, but pretty darn close.
Excellent. A few more of these and the cops will bury this guy. Follow him. He might be headed for some more polluting.
Do 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 do. Where are you going, bro? I might have made a mistake.
He's at it again. Get a picture.
Yep. Oh, lordy, I made a mistake.
He's at it again. Get a picture. That's more bird bath. I guess more of a
Iowa, again,
now.
2-1, going for,
This is some great work.
this 2-1, although they split the vote. It was overwhelmingly for the Republicans, or what should have been the Republicans, but ultimately ends up going to the Democratic Party. What the?
Imagine flying a delightful water wheel with deadly sticky tar. Monstrous.
There we go.
Keep on it. We want to make sure all this horrible polluting is fully documented.
Why is he doing this himself? Don't. What's your end game here, opera singer?
He seems to be working a switch, but there's no tar anywhere. Yet. Get a photo anyway.
Don't get that.
He's doing something, but what?
Massachusetts, another great example. 150,000 apiece for Teddy and
I can't believe
Taft, but splits the vote, and that's like 20 electoral votes for Woodrow Wilson. It's all over the place. New York should have gone Republican. New York should have.
due to your picture.
Specifically, and they end up splitting the vote yet again, which leads to a rousing Democrat win in that particular state.
Okay, Samir, get that engineer on the horn.
Sly, see if you can latch onto the car Octavio was riding in. We should eavesdrop on his phone conversation. From the look on his face, it seems important.
Listen, dear. This Ferris wheel is grinding. She's a pump of the tar fast. Nobody.
Like I'm telling you, it's just time and time again. You see all these states, and it's just, it's not what you want.
When the people come to see me sing, I want to make a show. They
And the fact that Teddy and Taft still won some states by themselves, I think, is a real big factor in why I fundamentally do believe that this election was and should have been and was ultimately a contested election that easily Republicans could have won had Teddy not tried to split the vote and ultimately lead the country to the point that it's at right now.
Look away if you must. You're about to witness the dark side of electrical engineering. Kill a bunch of poor innocent fish, will he? That'll do.
That's just murder, Bentley. I mean, I can go on and on. Even states that they probably shouldn't have won or wouldn't have won, at least there's somewhat of an argument that it could have been a lot more competitive. Hell, even in the South, like Tennessee goes, because I think they were a little bit concerned with Woodrow Wilson, and dang it, almost there. Explode you. Oh, dang it.
Hey, Sly, you better get over here. My sources tell me that Octavio has hired the Blue Viper Gondola gang to take out Carmelita.
The Blue Vipers? Those guys are nasty. We've got to get to them before they get to her.
She's off on her daily
Like
patrol.
Tennessee's a competitive state. Virginia is a semi-competitive state. West Virginia especially should have been Republican, but they lose that state. A bunch of the Midwestern states ultimately do go to the Democrats. So, like, if things went the way, things weren't so split, Democrats take at least 20 plus states solidly. They do win a lot of states. Most of the South, they would win.
Make sure to jump and leave or we're sunk. Let's take these guys out. Sorry, Sly, my gun overheated. Guess I should use short burst.
Red gondola down. Red gondola down.
Scratch one Blue Viper.
Is there a time limit? I feel like I'm supposed to like kill these guys before they reach a certain point. Oh, you're mine now, buddy. Crap.
Way to go. That's the end of the blue fight.
So, regardless, Woodrow Wilson probably wins the Solid South and takes at least 3 or 4 for sure Midwestern states. Oklahoma, for instance.
Uneventful patrol.
Probably still takes or makes Tennessee, Virginia. I think he does win Kentucky pretty, not cleanly, but at the very least, I think he does end up taking Kentucky.
So, but what's the fun in stealing if there's nobody trying to catch you? Besides,
Probably takes a state like Ohio or Idaho, for instance, a couple of those Midwestern states, Wyoming around there. But ultimately, I think Republicans do win the majority, if not the popular vote. Ultimately, it would have been contested, but I do believe that this was a winnable election, because polls probably would have had Woodrow Wilson, would have had Taft low, would have had Teddy as like the outside candidate who has a shot to win, and realistically, Woodrow Wilson probably, as a conservative estimate, only up by 2 in the polls just because of the Republican split. But Teddy still has a shot to really actually win and swing that election. Ultimately, though, Teddy does not get enough of those leans to ultimately take the election, because at that time too, there's a ideological split. So I think a lot of what would constitute the conservative Republicans go to Taft. The more progressive, maybe even the moderates or the very pro-America Republicans do go to Teddy, or just for people who think he's popular and has the namesake. This was a very winnable election, though. Because if it was just Taft probably, despite the economic difficulties, is still the incumbent, and he probably wins. It's probably up by at least 2 points, although at least the early goings would show that he's up by 2 points, and would have at least consolidated enough people behind him to where, you know, they probably win. I'll probably do 1 or 2 more jobs, and then we'll end this part here. Or 3. You know what, I'm just gonna do the Bentley one first because it's only 1. Suck it. I'm telling you, I cannot tell you how dramatic of a shift and change this election ultimately was for not only the United States, but really just for the history of this world. Like, the world's truly a very different place if this election goes very differently. Dang it. Well, I did get you. Oh, snap. Carmelita ain't playing around.
Sly said you were looking for me.
We need your help to destroy some tar drugs.
I'm done with all that. I found a new path. It's full of
Come on, what happened to the Murray? The guy who get into a fist fight with 10 thugs wearing nothing but a towel. The guy who used to punch first and not bother asking questions later. Where's that guy? Where's my old friend?
I'm sorry, Bentley. I tried to save you, but I just wasn't strong enough.
Get over it, Murray. I don't blame you and never have. The only thing I feel bad about is my path.
Look, I want to help you. You're like my second best friend. It's just that I promised I'd stay here and peacefully meditate till the Blackwater ran pure.
Well, what if you could help us peacefully? to punch anyone.
I'm in. Keep it peaceful, and I'll
Just love
smash
Murray.
up anything you like.
As a student of the Australian Dreamtime, I'm sure you've learned of.
That's what I think ultimately is the election 1912. Those early polls would have said Wilson up by 1 or 2 just because they were split in votes, although people were like, oh, Teddy, gotta watch out for him. But in reality, it's probably Wilson by 8, 9, just by the sheer fact that they're splitting the ticket, basically.
I'm sure my guru wouldn't mind.
Press the L1 button to go into Baltimore.
Okay, where am I going? Oh.
Hit the X button on impact to keep your bounces high. I'm projecting some markers to help you find the tar. Nice work, Peacemogger. That's one tar drum down the drain.
Come on, you can make it, buddy.
This is great, Murray. Those tar drums are an integral part of Octavio's scheme. With them out of the picture, you're that much closer to seeing the black water run clear. I promise. Superb bouncing, chump.
Where am I going? Come on. Bounce with me, buddy. Can't tell if I'm touching it or pressing it too early or too late.
You're really getting the hang of hang time. That tar drum didn't know what hit it. In a peaceful sense, of course. Keep this up, and the environmentalists will send a thank you card.
There's that last one.
That's the last of them. Really nice work, Murray. It's a pleasure to see you back in action.
Yeah, well, I haven't forgotten who my friends are. I'm just playing with
That he is. Good job, the Murray. Alright guys, we're going to end this part right here. Like and subscribe. God bless. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're enjoying this game, and we'll see y'all later, okay? Hope all goes well, y'all rock. Peace.